So I need some advice because I'm sitting here genuinely stunned at how a very simple thing turned into $1,000 problem that the police tell me they can't do anything about. Let me walk you through it from the start. I own a condo. Right now it's empty because I'm in the middle of remodeling it before I rent it out again. It's a nice little place, and part of what makes it nice is the parking situation. It has 2 assigned parking spaces, both numbered, sitting in this big oversized driveway, spot number 1 and spot number 2. They're mine. They come with the unit. Now here's the setup. My in-laws have been staying with my wife and me for the holidays, and when you've got extra people and extra cars crammed into your life for a couple of weeks, parking gets tight fast. So about 2 weeks ago, to free up room at our own place, I drove one of our cars, a black Land Cruiser, over to the empty condo and parked it there. Made sense. The condo's sitting empty. It's got 2 parking spots that belong to me. Might as well use one. Except when I got there, there was a problem. One of my 2 spots already had a car in it. A dark red Toyota 4Runner, just sitting there, illegally parked in a spot that belongs to my unit. I have no idea whose it was. Some stranger who decided my empty-looking condo's driveway was a good free place to leave their car. Annoying, but not the end of the world because I still had my second spot. So I pulled the black Land Cruiser into spot number 2, right next to the red 4Runner sitting in spot number 1. But I wasn't just going to let the 4Runner sit there. Our property has a contract with a tow company specifically for exactly this kind of thing, illegally parked cars. So I called them, and I want you to really pay attention to this part because it becomes the whole point of the story. I gave that tow company everything. I gave them the make, I gave them the model, a Toyota 4Runner. I gave them the color, dark red. I gave them the license plate number, and I gave them the exact spot it was parked in, spot number 1. Everything they could possibly need to tow the correct car and not make a mistake. They told me, no problem, they'd come out and tow it. Great. Handled, or so I thought. So fast forward to last night. I drive over to the condo to pick up my black Land Cruiser and bring it back home. And it's gone. My car is just gone. Empty spot. Where I had left my Land Cruiser, in spot number 2, there is now nothing. So my stomach drops and I do what anyone would do. I called the police and I reported my car stolen. And here's the detail that turned my confusion into something closer to disbelief. While I'm standing there on the phone with the police reporting my own car stolen, the red 4Runner is still there, still sitting in spot number 1. The illegally parked car, the one I specifically called about, the one I gave them every single detail on, hasn't moved an inch. And that's when it hit me. So while I'm on the phone with the police, my wife gets on the phone with the tow company. They towed my car. They towed my black Land Cruiser out of spot number 2, and they left the dark red 4Runner sitting right there in spot number 1. The exact car I called about. The one I gave them the plate, the make, the model, the color, and the spot number for. They didn't tow that one, they towed mine. And here's the part that really gets me. They clearly didn't bother to check a single thing. They didn't check the plate I gave them. They didn't check the model. A Land Cruiser and a 4Runner don't even look alike. They're different shapes, different sizes, different everything. They didn't check the color. Mine's black. The target was dark red. Those aren't close. Nobody could confuse those 2 cars if they glanced at them for half a second. They just rolled up, hooked up a car, and hauled it away. And it happened to be the wrong one. Mine. I want you to sit in that moment with me for a second, because it's genuinely surreal. I had just spent the last 10 minutes on the phone with the police, giving them a report, describing my stolen vehicle, feeling that specific sick drop in your gut when you realize something of yours is just gone. And the entire time I was doing that, the answer was standing right in front of me. My car wasn't stolen by some criminal. It was taken by the exact company I had called to fix the problem. I had reported my own car stolen, and the thief, if you want to call it that, was the tow truck I hired. The one illegally parked car on the entire property, the red 4Runner, was the one car that got to stay. Everything I did right, and the outcome was the exact opposite of what I asked for. So, okay, I told myself, obviously mistakes happen. People are human, companies mess up. I figured I'd just drive down to the tow lot, calmly explain the situation. They'd pull up their own records, see that, yeah, they grabbed the wrong car off the wrong plate. They'd apologize, and I'd drive my Land Cruiser home. An honest mistake, honestly corrected. Simple fix. That is not what happened, not even close. I got down to the tow lot, and I explained the whole thing, and they told me that in order to release my car that they took by mistake, from a spot it was legally parked in, I would first have to pay the tow fee and the storage fee. And here's the kicker. The storage fee was for 2 full weeks, because remember, I'd parked the Land Cruiser there 2 weeks ago and only came back for it last night. So even though they only towed it who knows when, they wanted to charge me 2 weeks of storage. The whole bill came to over $1,000. Over $1,000. To get back the car they took by mistake, I asked to speak to the manager. And the manager, to his slight credit, sort of acknowledged that, yeah, they'd made an error, but every time I pushed on it, he just kept retreating behind the same phrase. Company policy. It's company policy. Like those 2 words were a magic spell that made their mistake my problem. He did throw me a bone. He said because it was their error, they'd waive the tow fee. Fine. But he said I was still responsible for the storage fees. The storage fees. Over $1,000 to store a car they should never have touched in a lot I never asked them to put it in. So I called the police back, figuring surely this is something they can help with. This is basically theft, right? They took my property and they're holding it for ransom. And the cops told me the same thing they tell everybody in these situations. It's a civil matter. They can't intervene. Sorry. So I asked the tow company the obvious question. Can I just get in my own truck and drive it away? It's my car. The keys are in my pocket. It's right there. And they told me that if I did that, they would have me arrested for car theft. Arrested for taking my own car that they took by mistake out of their lot. So there I am, standing in a gravel lot in the cold. My own vehicle, my black Land Cruiser, is sitting maybe 10 feet in front of me. I can see it. I have the keys to it in my pocket. And if I walk over, unlock it, and drive it off the lot, my own car, taken by their mistake, I am the one who gets arrested for stealing my own car. That is the actual, real situation I am standing in. Let me tell you what that does to your head. There is a specific kind of anger that comes from being completely in the right and completely powerless at the same time. I did everything correctly. I gave them every detail. I called the police. And here I am, being told that the law can't help me, the company won't help me, and if I take back what's mine, I become the criminal. Every single door is closed. It's the kind of thing that makes you want to just start yelling, except yelling in a tow lot at a guy hiding behind company policy gets you exactly nowhere, and probably gets you those police they mentioned. So you swallow it. You stand there and you swallow it. So I did the only thing I actually could do in that moment. I grudgingly paid the $1,000, and I took my car home that same day. Not because I agreed with it, not because I thought it was fair, but because I needed my car, and because you do not win this argument standing in a gravel lot at night against a man who has already decided the conversation is over. But I want to be very clear about something, and this is the part that matters. Paying that $1,000 was not me giving up. It wasn't me deciding it wasn't worth the fight. Paying it was simply me getting my car back so that I could go and fight this the right way, on my terms, not standing helpless in their lot on theirs. Because there was no version of this, none, where I was just going to eat $1,000 for their careless mistake, shrug, and walk away. I drove home that night already thinking about exactly how I was going to handle it. And I want to tell you, I took my time, and I did it properly. Update. Okay. So, it's been a couple of weeks since all that, and I told you I wasn't going to just eat that $1,000. So here's exactly what I did step by step, because I think the how matters as much as the what. The first thing I did was not get angry. Or rather, I let myself be angry for one night, and then I put it away. Because angry people make sloppy decisions, and I did not want to be sloppy. I wanted to be correct. I wanted to do everything so cleanly and so by the book that when this landed in front of a judge, there wouldn't be a single loose thread for them to pull. So the first real move was small claims court. I filed suit against them. And here's a detail I made sure to get right. I didn't just file against the business. I filed against the business and against the owner personally. Both. I got the whole thing filed right before Christmas, so it would be sitting there waiting for him in the new year. And then this morning, I served him. Or, well, technically I didn't serve him myself, and this is honestly one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. You're not supposed to serve legal papers yourself if you're a party to the case, so I needed someone else to hand him the documents. And my neighbor's daughter is home from college for the holidays, so I asked her if she'd be willing to do it, and she said sure. And let me tell you, this young woman was smooth. We went down to the owner's office together. I was pretending to be a customer, just sort of standing in line behind her watching. And she walked right up, confirmed his name, handed him the papers, said the words you're supposed to say, and it was done before he even understood what was happening. Textbook. I was genuinely impressed. She served this guy his lawsuit like she'd done it 100 times, and I got to stand there and watch the whole thing play out 3 feet away, but I wasn't done, because I had one more thing to hand him before I left. And this is the part he really didn't see coming. You see, there's a detail I haven't told you yet. I am a member of the condo board, the same condo board whose property this tow company has its contract with, the contract that lets them tow cars on our property in the first place. So before I left his office, I handed him a second letter. This one was from our condo board, and it informed him that when his company's contract with us expires at the end of February, it is not going to be renewed. And I'll be honest, convincing my fellow board members to go along with that was surprisingly easy, because it turns out I was not the only one, not by a long shot. When I brought my situation to the board and started describing what had happened, the wrong car, the $1,000, the company policy wall, the threat to have me arrested for taking my own vehicle, I watched people around the table start nodding. And then they started talking. One owner had had a guest towed who was legally parked. Another had been overcharged and given the runaround for weeks. Someone else knew a resident who'd had almost the identical thing happen and had just paid it and given up. It turned out this company had been leaving a trail of angry owners across our whole property for a while, and mine was just the case that finally put it in front of the board in an official way. So I didn't have to make some big persuasive speech. I basically just told my story, and the room did the rest. By the end, the non-renewal wasn't even really a debate. It was a formality. They'd been waiting for a reason, and I'd handed them a clean one. So when I walked into that owner's office with the board's letter in my hand, I wasn't bluffing, and I wasn't exaggerating. That decision was already real. It was already made. The letter just made it official. So now this guy has, in the span of about 10 minutes, been served with a personal lawsuit and been told he's losing a contract in his own office by a guy who was standing in line pretending to buy something. And about an hour later, my phone rings. It's him, the owner. And now, suddenly, he's very friendly. He tells me that his employee had mistakenly charged me the storage fees, that it was all just a misunderstanding, an error by his staff, nothing he would ever have authorized. Now here's the thing. That was a lie. And I knew it was a lie because I was standing right there when it happened. Remember, back at the lot, the manager had gotten on the phone and called the owner to ask what to do about my car. And it was the owner himself on that call who made the decision. He's the one who said to waive the tow fee but still charge me the storage. It wasn't some employee's mistake. It was his personal call. So when he tried to feed me this line about his employee mistakenly charging me, I told him exactly that. I told him I knew it was him, because I was standing right there when the manager called him and he gave the order. He got quiet on that. And then he made his real offer. He said he would refund my money if I agreed to renew his contract with the property. A straight quid pro quo. Give me my contract back, and I'll give you your $1,000 back. And I told him flatly no, this was not going to be a quid pro quo. I was not going to trade the board's decision for my own refund. Those were two completely separate things, and I wasn't going to let him tangle them together. And I want to explain why I held that line so hard, because it would have been easy to just take the deal. He was offering me my $1,000 back, right there, no court, no waiting. Part of me wanted to just say yes and be done. But think about what that deal actually was. He was asking me to sell out the entire building, every other owner who'd been mistreated by this company, in exchange for my own personal refund. He was asking me to use my seat on the board, a seat that's supposed to protect all the owners, as a private bargaining chip to get myself made whole. And the second I did that, I'd be exactly as dishonest as he was. I'd be the board member who traded the community's decision for a check in his own pocket. I wasn't going to do that. Not for $1,000, not for $10,000. The refund was owed to me on its own merits, and the contract was a separate decision that belonged to the whole board, and I was not going to let him braid the two together just because it was convenient for him. Here's the deal I actually offered him instead. I told him that if he refunded the roughly $1,000 he'd wrongly charged me, plus my court filing fee, then I would drop the lawsuit. That's it. Pay back what you took, plus the cost you put me to, and this goes away. If he didn't want to do that, then fine. I would let the court decide, and we'd see how a judge felt about a company that tows a car with the wrong plate, wrong make, wrong model, and wrong color, and then charges the victim $1,000 in storage for their own mistake. And as for his contract, I told him the board was meeting next week, and that his company was, of course, free to offer its services again and make its case. What I did not tell him is that there is no chance on earth we are giving this company another contract. That ship has sailed. The board's already made up its mind, but he doesn't need to know that yet. Let him wonder. Let him be on his best behavior for one more week, hoping. So that's where it stands right now. I've got my lawsuit filed. I've got the leverage. The contract's as good as gone. And the man who 2 weeks ago stood behind his counter and told me it was company policy to charge me $1,000 for his own mistake. That same man is now calling me personally on my phone, trying to make it all quietly go away. And I'll be honest with you about how I feel, sitting here now, because it's not exactly the triumphant feeling you might expect. Yeah, there's a part of me that's satisfied. Of course there is. I did everything right, and it worked. I stayed calm. I filed the paperwork. I served him cleanly. The board was already on my side. And now the guy who thought he could push me around is the one sweating. That part feels good. I won't pretend it doesn't. But mostly what I keep thinking is, look at everything it took. Look at what I had to do just to get a company to admit they made a simple, obvious mistake and give back money they never should have taken. I had to file a lawsuit. I had to recruit my neighbor's college kid to serve legal papers. I had to pull in an entire condo board. All of that, just to get back to zero, just to get to the point where a company says, okay, fine, we were wrong. Because here's the thing that actually bothers me. I only got here because I happen to have the tools. I happen to be on the board. I happen to know how small claims works. I happen to have a neighbor willing to help. But what about the person this happens to who doesn't have any of that? The person who gets their car towed by mistake, gets charged $1,000, gets told it's policy, gets told the police can't help, and they'll be arrested if they take their own car back, and who just pays it and goes home and never gets it back? Because that's most people. That's who this system is actually built to roll over. I just happen to be the wrong guy to try it on. So no, I don't feel like some conquering hero. I feel like a guy who had to go to war to get somebody to do the bare minimum right thing. I'll take the win. But it shouldn't have taken all this. It should have been a 5-minute phone call and an apology. Instead, it was a lawsuit, a process server, and a board vote. That's the part I can't quite shake. The board meets next week, and he's got my terms. So we'll see if he does the smart thing. I'll update you when it's actually over. Final update. Okay, it's over now, so let me close this out for you. In the end, the man did the smart thing, which is to say he did the only thing left to him once he actually stopped and did the math. A lawsuit he was going to lose, filed against him personally over a mistake his own company plainly made. With a member of the condo board, he was begging for a contract sitting on the other side of it. There was no angle left for him to play, so he paid. He refunded the full $1,000 he'd wrongly charged me, and he covered my court filing fee on top of it, exactly like I told him he'd have to. Once that money cleared, I did my part and dropped the small claims suit. Clean, done. I was made whole, down to the last dollar it had cost me to fight him. And then the end of February came, his contract with our property expired, and the board did not renew it. No drama, no big meeting, no speech. It just quietly ran out, and we let it. We brought in a different company to handle towing on the property, one that hopefully checks a license plate before it hooks up a car. I never heard from the owner again after the refund cleared. I don't expect I will. So that's the whole thing. I got my money back. The careless company is gone from our property. On paper, I won every single piece of it. But I'll tell you the honest truth of how I feel now that the dust has settled. I'm glad it's over more than I'm glad I won. Because when I add it all up, the night my car vanished, the sick feeling of reporting it stolen, the $1,000, the standing in that lot being told I'd be arrested for touching my own truck, the lawsuit, the paperwork, all the weeks of it, that is an enormous amount of my life and my energy spent just to end up back at zero, just to get to, we were wrong, here's your money back. Something that should have been a 2-minute apology. I keep coming back to the same quiet thought. I only won because I happen to have every tool you'd need to win. The board seat, the know-how, the neighbor's kid, the stubbornness to see it through. Most people who get run over like this have none of that. They just pay the $1,000 and go home and eat it, because the whole thing is built to make fighting back harder than just giving up. I got lucky that they picked the wrong person to try it on, so I'll take my win. But I'd have traded it in a heartbeat for it to have just never happened at all. Thanks for all the advice, everyone. It genuinely helped me keep a level head when I really wanted to lose it. Take care of your cars out there.